everybody. Thank you. We're going to start the program. This is Karen Padgett, and she's talking to us, as you know, about cemetery restoration. And I'll just leave it at that, at Newberry.
At Newberry Cemetery?
And that's
Yes.
Green County, right?
No, in Paoli. Okay, I had to put all these on a slide because I'm sure that I would forget something important. The first rule in any historic headstone is to do no harm. And all of the things that I'm talking about here are historic headstones, so it doesn't necessarily count for your newer polished stones. You can get by with more on the newer polish. But I'm talking here about your historic headstones. First rule, do no harm to yourself or to the headstone. It's not recommended that you work alone anytime you're doing that, but I always work alone, except for my 4-year-old grandson who likes to help with the stones. As far as any products that you use on the stones, they should be proven safe. For cleaning the historic stones, only quaternary ammonium solutions should be used. 2 brands of those that a layperson can get are Endurance and D2. The Endurance is a newer brand that Atlas Preservation is selling, and D2 has been around a long time and it's been tested. It's what they use at Arlington, so there's no harm to the stones.
What about something to go wet and forget?
Yeah, I guess that too.
Well, I don't recommend wet and forget. It's not the same formulation, and I know it's cheaper, and people do kind of balk at the price of the D2. Endurance has come out. The guy did sell D2, but kind of feels like maybe the D2 had been watered down a little bit too much for the manufacturer.
So, a bottle or something, like you can't wet and forget?
You just spray it. With the wet and forget, if it's used on white marble time over after time, you will start to see that that stone does turn a little bit blue. That was supposed to have been off. But the quaternary ammonium solutions have been tested over time not to cause any harm to the stones. And they work as a biocide. It kills off the biological growth on the stone. It won't take off stains, but it kills the moss, algae, and lichens. And those growth do actually cause microscopic damage to the stone because the roots grow into the stone and weaken them over time. For repairs and setting of the stones, only natural hydraulic lime or NHL should be used. There is a 2-part epoxy mixed with stone dust that I did use at first, but it's preferable to use anything that will be weaker than the stone itself, because if it gets bumped again with whatever, typically mower will bump into those. So whenever you make a repair, you want that to be weaker than the stone itself, so that if it does get bumped again, it breaks again at the original break and not a new break in that stone. The goal is to do only things that are reversible in the future. And when you're using these products, your repair is not going to last forever, and that's as it should be. You don't want, and when you're kind of fixing, you'll find old repairs that have used like liquid nails or caulk, none of that stuff. Yeah. Just stick with the natural hydraulic lime. Anytime you will be digging around looking for missing stones, you are supposed to get a probe permit from the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. There's no cost for the permit, and it's good for a year. And when you're filling out the form for that, you do need to list how many stones you expect to find and what you will be doing to repair them, and the contact person from the cemetery who is giving you permission to do that work. If you want to work on any stone that's not a member of your family, you need permission from a descendant, technically speaking, or whoever is in charge of that cemetery. In many of the older cemeteries, good luck finding anyone to give you that permission, or, you know, most of them many times aren't being taken care of. As far as permission, I'll say, do what you think is right. And I do have permission for Newberry from the preacher to do all of the work that I did. But so many of the stones, if this baby died, they don't have any descendants, you know. I'm going to do what I'm going to do that I think is right. So, but technically, you are supposed to have permission. And if I were going to start on a whole cemetery after I've found out, learning along the way, I would start simply by spraying each stone that you can find with the D2 or Endurance that I'm using now. And these take a period of months to work. It's not an instant thing at all. And if they're all clean to start with, then your repair, if any repairs are needed, it's easier to match that color once the stone is clean. There are tints that you can use with the natural hydraulic limes to get close to the color of your stone. But you spray it on, you walk away, time does the work for you. There is no need to scrub. And if you come back, and sometimes it's just a matter of a few minutes, you will see what's called a bloom after you've sprayed it. And it's going to turn orange and look horrible. And that's okay, don't panic. It's supposed to do that. And it will look worse before it looks better. It's just the way it is. It's the lichens dying off, and then they will work their way to the surface of the stone and be washed away with the rain. I would say once you get stone sprayed, I would focus on removing the rank vegetation, and most of the time that's going to be yucca.
What's rank vegetation? What does that mean?
Weeds.
Oh, weeds.
At Newberry, there was so much, well, poison ivy. I stay covered in poison ivy all year, and that's okay. I just expect that. That's the way it's going to be. Walnut saplings are horrible because squirrels bury walnuts everywhere, so you're just going to have thousands. Yeah. They are covered with yucca, with daylilies are really bad.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because they spread?
Yes, they're horrible. And some later shots I'll show, there'll be signs of that. And there are some people who think that the yuccas should be left alone because somebody planted those 100 years ago. I disagree entirely. They should all be eliminated.
Is that a thing, putting yucca in cemeteries?
Apparently, but they're native here too, so, and they just spread.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they seed really bad. And you know, the story is that, oh, they planted that there as, yeah, maybe somebody did, and maybe it just came up because nobody's taking care of it. But I'm firmly in the camp of eliminate every yucca you can. And they're very hard to kill anyway. You can dig it out 1,000 times and they're just going to keep coming back.
It must have been popular way back then.
Yeah.
On a backyard, you know.
Yeah. And yeah, the roots are just horrible. And they're just huge and they're really hard to dig out. So after I got rid of the growth, I would focus on the stones that are not damaged but are just leaning. because leaning puts a lot of stress on the stone, and that's when they will break, and they're in danger of being hit by the mowers. But for all the people who give the mowing crews a hard time, all I can say is you try it once.
Yeah.
It is not easy to mow a cemetery. And then a lot of times you'll find stones that are leaned against another stone. If you find that and you can't get to it that day, it's better to lay that stone down with the carvings facing the ground, get them level on the ground. And when you're picking up, if they've been leaned against, especially when they're a taller stone, don't grab them by the tall end, go along the other, because they are very fragile. A lot of them are only 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick, and they will break actually very easily. So it's better to lay those flat on the ground.
On the mower, just drive over?
Well, you hope not, but they're being driven over anyway, yeah. And if you have a multi-piece stone that's on the ground that needs to be righted, you will need a tripod, chain hoist, and a sturdy pry bar. And I would recommend the brand called Big Bad Monster. Much better than that Harbor Freight nonsense we first started off with. And to make sure that you have, I use a 1-ton chain hoist, and I can easily handle putting that up myself. To approximate the weight of a stone, they say that the black marble is the heaviest stone, and it can be up to 178 pounds per cubic foot. So that's the weight that I figure for every stone to be safe. So you do need to measure your stone and get the cubic feet on that. And then to attach those pieces together, you can use the hydraulic lime there. You put a small spacer on the corners of those so that you're not flattening out all of the mortar, but that they do sell like ropes of lead that you just cut off very easily, and it just takes a small. And then in the old days, they might use like a nickel or something just to give a little spacer there. And for the repairs, that's where you use the natural hydraulic lime. And if you do need to make such a repair and order that, you do need to be prepared for the price of that. Atlas Preservation is one of the companies I order from, as well as the Limeworks US. I first ordered the otter bean from Atlas Preservation for that. It's manufactured in Germany. And I've found that once you put it on there, and then when it was time to sand it out, it was a little bit grainy, and kind of chunks of it would come out, and it didn't give a real smooth finish.
What kind of repair were you doing with it?
That's when, if a stone is broken, then you stick it back together with this mortar, and then brace it. And even if you're missing a piece of stone, you can kind of recreate from that mortar. Yeah. So then I ordered Lithomex from Limeworks, and that is from France. And it does give, I think, a little better finish for that type of work. Concrete is never to be used to reset the stones into the bases. So for resetting into the base, then I use the cheaper Otterbein for that. But yeah, you do have chunks missing. You fill that in with the Lithomex, let that cure a little bit, and then you can carve any names into it or that you need. Probing is where you do need the probing permit. and it is fun to find those treasures. It is really very satisfying to be able to find something that's been buried and get that back up. I have found several there that weren't on the DAR records, so it is fun to do that. And for that, you use like the plumbing tile probe, which, you know, the T handle thing, and you literally just stick it in the ground until you hit something. A lot of times you're gonna dig and it was just a rock, you know, but sometimes it's the good stuff.
Make sure to check into the yucca plants.
Yes, yuccas. Oh, yuccas. And for probing, if you are reasonably sure where there might be, you know, a missing spot that you think would be there, that's where you start off probing. But at Newberry, there are no straight rows. So in those cases, and I was looking for one particular stone for someone that she was sure that it was there. She described the stone. It was broken into 3 pieces. I probed for that thing nonstop. And in looking, finally, it's like, could you tell me the name or the whole name? They're buried at Ames. Yeah. But she was absolutely positive. It's at the edge of the woods and broken into 3 pieces. That stone is in perfect shape. It's nowhere near any woods, and it's at Ames. But in that case, yeah, I did like a foot-by-foot grid because I really wanted to find that stone for her, but it didn't happen. But the probing would be my last priority on a whole cemetery restoration. Get the ones that you can see done first, and then have fun later. The Slices of Orange County page on Facebook is very useful for finding descendants, and people might ask about a particular stone, and I have been able to send pictures of people of families. And I had one. A group of ladies came like from Washington State or somewhere along the east or the west coast, and they were looking for a name, and I knew that name was there, absolutely, because it was the same last name as a teacher of mine. And we looked all over that cemetery, and it's like, I know for a fact it is here, and I could not find it while they were there, because I was looking for an upright stone, and it's like the one that is ground level stone to begin with. So I was able to send them that picture. And see, the Limeworks and Atlas Preservation sell a lot of materials that you might need if you kind of get obsessed with it. But not that I'm obsessed, but yeah. DNR.gov for the probe permit. I guess I have to say that you're supposed to get that. Would I bother? I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't cost anything, and you are supposed to send in a report after you're done, but with cuts the way they are now, I don't know if anybody's even going to read those reports that you're sending in. Find a grave, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that.
How do people do that? Somebody just go up and take pictures of graves, or how does that?
Yes, yes, you can.
That's so interesting.
And people, and I'm like obviously not good with technology, but you can get that on your phone too, where you can pinpoint exactly where that stone is. So people, so that it's on there. Yeah.
I think they did a lot of that in Greenhill.
Yeah.
I've used it a lot with some ancestors for years, and I know their name, but I can find when they were born and when they died.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, it has been invaluable in looking people up on this and to find the family relationships and things. Newspaperarchive.com is great for the obituaries from long ago. Oh, it's wonderful because it makes searching so easy, and you can look up the obituaries for people. And I do have a picture of it. I am going to get every stone and all of the obituaries I can and get that laminated and for people to come and look. And then Facebook has several groups that are related to cemetery preservation. Be forewarned, on a lot of those groups, you have different factions. It can get ridiculous. People think epoxy is the devil, and they get into arguments about the wet and forget and D2 and who's doing things right. You can find good information, but there's some questionable stuff too. Same with YouTube. There are some people who do it right on there, and then you'll see people using power washers and things that they should be arrested for, in my opinion only. But you take the good with the bad, but
People just don't know. They think they're doing something.
they think they're trying to help, but a lot of times though, when they're told the proper way, then they don't care. And it's different if somebody just doesn't know, but they can just absolutely destroy stones with a power washer. So anyway, how I got into this, we purchased the property between our home and the cemetery, finally, in 2021. And our property is kind of an odd pie-shaped slice there, so it actually adjoins the cemetery on the west side and the north side. You can kind of see the highway is right there too.
The tree, that big tree.
Yeah, kind of. So this was the view looking east from the property that we bought. Kind of typical, and this was from the front yard where you couldn't even see the cemetery at that point. I was very excited to get this property because I'm a gardener mostly, but all of this stuff there was mostly just invasive things that I started cleaning up on.
What's that big bloom there?
That is my old neighbor's rose bush. It's still there. I didn't eliminate it, but most of that stuff is gone. But I borrowed a friend's giant wood chipper. I don't know if you can kind of see that there, and I have a giant pile of wood chips going and piles burning. It actually went a lot faster than I thought it would. I thought it was going to take me probably 5 years to even get that area cleared out because there was just so many invasive things growing there and horrible. Yeah, I had started planning a little bit by that point. There were broken crack pipes, needles. I didn't expect all of that, but anyway, you can kind of see the cemetery there through there. And at first, before I knew better, I had like Japanese maple planted there that was a beautiful color, and I loved the fact that lichens were growing on the stone behind it because it coordinated very well. But at that point I didn't know that those lichens were damaging the stone. So it takes a little while to learn.
So you say that cemetery is next to your property? Or?
Yes, it's one over between my home, and it's about 3 acres almost that we bought there. So this came from Slices of Orange County. A descendant who lives in Texas had mentioned something about this stone. And I said, well, I live next to there. I'll go take a picture for you. And luckily she knew about where it was because you obviously can't read the name there. And so, I've cleaned all the stones. And this is how it looks now. And you can see the broken pieces there that I really wasn't sure what were about. But I was able to dig around and found that I guess a family member of theirs had poured some concrete around there in 1918. And that had all broken, so I got those put back together. It's a pain for anybody who has to mow. But I thought, you know, somebody did it in 1918, I'm not gonna mess with that. But that's as it is there. This was kind of in the, and you can see, and I don't remember exactly the date that I took this photo, but after the stones are clean, then the birds come along and crap on your stones. But that will fade too, because this was, you know, between this time and so this is, you know, last month, that has faded, and the sun will fade those things.
What you did.
I think so.
How did you clean it other than just the spray stuff?
Just the D2. That's all you have to do. Honestly, it sounds crazy and it doesn't seem like it should work, but it does. You spray it, go away for a year, and you come back and it's going to be like that.
Oh, it just rinses itself.
Yeah, the rain will take care of that. So I had kind of gotten the garden part going by 23, and yes. So this was July 2023, and I'm kind of getting the idea that something needs to be done here, because now, once I got those things cleared out, you could see it from our yard and you could see it from the highway, and then you noticed how bad it really was, because I really never paid attention. It was just there, and it wasn't very visible to me. So you can see the walnut saplings, the yucca, the daylilies, just all sorts of horrible things. Years before, this cemetery was probably only mown like maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the summer, and that was with a belly mower. So back then it didn't get mowed at all. More recently, 2 gentlemen who go to the church had been mowing it. Not trimming, you know, but I appreciate what they did, because they're volunteering to do it and paying for the gas out of their own. But you can see, you know, it's not so good. This is one of the beautiful old carvings. We only have the one tree stump there. I actually like the looks, again, of the lichens on that tree stump. I like it better dirty than clean, but I cleaned it. But yeah, you can see I've got a mountain of yucca there to get rid of. And kind of started.
It's kind of pretty though, the yucca.
Oh, no.
I mean, when you just look at it like this, it's,
Yeah. So I basically, you know, started the later part of September in 2023 really starting to dig out. This is yesterday.
now go back, let's see the other one, just go back one.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah, September 2023
okay.
and yesterday. Certainly plenty of work still to do, but you know, that's just spraying the stone. That's
Can
all you
buy
have to
that
do.
Spray that combination that you,
Yeah, the D2 or Endurance.
either one, you can
Yeah.
buy that already together.
Yes, you don't dilute
Or
it.
something?
No, you can only get Endurance from the Atlas Preservation. D2, you can get several different retailers online, but nowhere sells it retail that you can go in. No big box store or anything sells it. They
That
do.
tree stump there is pretty large, tall. Is it taller than you are?
About maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
You just
So-
spray it on there, just like I said, walk away. It's gonna look bad for a while.
It will look worse before it looks better, because as that stuff's dying off, it turns all sorts of nasty.
How long
But-
does that take?
It depends on kind of the amount of growth, but it can take months
Months,
for
yeah.
it to do that.
So
And
one
then
time, you just have to spray it one time?
I have sprayed these at least 2 or 3 times, and you do need to do it when the temperatures are above 50. And they say that the hotter it is, the better it works. And some people will spray it and then cover the stone with a black plastic bag to make it hot. I don't do that. But here's like an example of a stone that is leaning on the right there. To fix that, you need to dig around it, a decent space around it. You don't want to go tugging on it. You dig first, and just to get it leveled up there, because, I mean, obviously that's hard to mow around, and you can't blame anybody if they do tap stuff and gets broken. But you can kind of see here the yuccas that are hiding stones, and you can kind of tell that there might be a stone under that yucca there at the bottom. Oh, I hate yucca. I hate it.
I don't think I've ever seen a cemetery with that much.
Really?
Oh, it looks like it's,
Well, like I say, it was only being mown, maybe 3 or 4 times, and only with a belly mower, so nothing was getting done. But you see
Somebody
here.
said, I got all this yucca, what should I do?
Yeah. I've got some ideas on that.
That's probably right, I don't want to throw anything away.
But, these, you can kind of see the corners there, they do get mown over and damaged. But this was just typical of euonymus growing up here. Horrible invasive things. And it took a lot of digging to get this. This is kind of an illustration of stress is placed on both of those stones there.
Sure.
Get that on the ground. It's going to be safer on the ground than leaning like that where it's going to break and cause the other to break too. And there's like an illustration of this here. You can see that this stone was not broken, obviously, when it was placed up there, but it's in that bind there, and yeah, they're going to break. There were several broken stones at the base of this larger stone. I took 2 of them home to repair, and when I brought them back, because it's just kind of piecemeal when you're fixing stuff, and I haven't gone through all of the names and things yet. So actually, when I was bringing those back to get them reset, I found the same names. It was Queenie and Alexander, husband and wife, and their stones had been broken and they had been replaced. Oh. So and in that case, I just put them side by side. So they have 2 stones, and this is this stone cleaned up. And the top of that actually comes off, and when I took that off, there was just a tiny little chip out of it, but a mouse had just stuffed that full of all sorts of shells. So somehow he was able to get in a tiny little crack. But another case where those need to be on the ground. And this stone in particular is the Hindostan whetstone. And there are several stones made of this there. And it takes such a nice, crisp carving, and they stay beautiful for a long time, unless they delaminate. And there are natural weaknesses in those stones, and so they will just flake off. But this one was in pretty good shape. More stones piled. Poison ivy. I'm covered all summer, and that's just the way it is. But this is an easy fix for those that are leaning that much.
Sounds like an easy fix.
This one, yeah, this is good. This is just a little bit of digging and get it leveled up. These are 2 stones.
The stone underneath there, is it level?
Not necessarily. And some of them have bases and some don't. Some of them will look like that, like it's just stuck in the ground. But then a lot of times when you start digging, the base itself is also sunk.
So do you have
This,
to dig up that base?
yes, I'll bring that base up above ground, pack it with, luckily my husband had a pile of really nice chips with a lot of lime in it. So yeah, you stuff that down, get that base leveled up, and get the stone back on it. All of the stones there are kind of leaning a little bit. You can see this one on the right. Yeah, and over time, freezing and thawing, that is going to fall. But a stone like that, that's an easy fix too. You just put a block of wood, and I'm able to get that back on with my big bad monster pry bar.
May I ask you, I'm going to ask you,
Yes.
what's the earliest date that somebody's been buried
That is,
that you have?
that I can find on Find a Grave is 1824, but there's no stone. And that was also, it's actually the one stone I showed you there, the Ellis. His wife was supposed to have been buried in 1824, but the DAR records show that there was no stone at that time when they did theirs either. And I have probed all around there and cannot find a stone for her. But 1824, as far as I know.
Are there any people being buried there now?
There haven't been, with one exception. The previous, most recent was 1989, but there is no plot map for this, so they weren't sure if there were anyone, any open spaces. They did make an exception this year because the gentleman who mowed passed away. And so he was buried up front where they were reasonably sure nobody was there. When they were digging that grave, he did run into a lot of rock, and I was a little iffy about that, but it was just rock. So we are actually going to donate some of the land that we bought so that we can be buried there, so our family can be buried there.
We've lived there our whole life.
Yeah, we bought the house that I grew up in, and his family farms across the road. So it's like I'm not getting very far at all in life. Yeah.
Did you go to that church?
No.
So approximately how many headstones are in that cemetery?
Fewer than 300, but I haven't counted since,
There's that many?
yes.
That's a decent size cemetery.
Yeah, it's not bad. But so, little things like this, the freeze and thaw, and this ground here is wonderful. It's never been bulldozed. It's just beautiful, but it does tend to make things sink. So everything kind of leans there kind of toward the highway, but so this is those stones, the same two stones there. And
You're to be commended.
it's fun. People are like, oh, you do so much work. It's fun.
It's an interest, it's nice to have.
So that's, before I really started doing much work, all I had done at that point is mowed it and
Got rid of the
collected the grass. I'm starting on the yuccas, starting on them there. But this stone, and the guy who mowed did tell me that he broke this one. He said, I hit it. It's hard to see, but here it is now. I was able to fix it. And as I was fixing it, there's no record of Ella. There's, I assume, a sister next to it, Carrie Bell, but there was no last name, and these were not listed on the DAR record. It's hard to see from the photos, but I didn't have a name. I could tell that the first was an E, and that the second was going to be an L. And then I could tell that there were 4 letters, and the last one was going to be an A.
So you recreated all that?
Yes, I recreated this with the line.
LSA.
Could, but I'm not going there.
No, that's great.
I did the best I could. I'm certainly no sculptor, but so she's back up there.
That's That's wonderful.
put an ear back on the little lamb there. And, but yeah, there's no record of them on the DAR records, and the stones were in good enough shape that I don't, they wouldn't have been buried, so I don't know why they missed those, but at any rate. So this is after I've sprayed everything, and it will look worse
Well, that's
before
the
it's
orange
better.
color you're looking
Yeah, they will all start to turn orange, and that's okay. It's all right. So September is kind of starting to see from the shade garden that I made there. It's getting a little better. Some things are just as simple as getting rid of those yuccas.
Well, that's a Civil War.
Yeah. James Lucas, I've got the photo request down to only 4 that I haven't been able to fill. And his daughter is buried next to him. She has a nice big stone there. But there were 4 other maybe members of that family that DAR listed, but they also said there was no stone found at that time, but they used the obituaries. So there are those 4 outstanding photo requests, but I have probed there and cannot find them, and I think they just don't exist. And this is when you get into probing. You can see I've found something.
That was that far below ground?
Oh yeah, they're a foot below ground.
How do you
I don't know
probe?
anything
Take a
about what
stick
you
or
do, but I took probing as research. What is probing? Because my probe doesn't.
No,
break a hole.
that's the actual tile probe.
It's a tool.
It's a tool, yes. It's a T-handled
Metal rod.
Metal rod.
About half-inch diameter, and you just put a T-handle on so you can control the
Yeah.
rod. And it may be 4 or 5 feet long. And when the ground is soft, or after a rain, the ground is softer, and you can kind of go down about 1 foot, 2 foot,
Yeah,
till you hit something.
yeah. And a lot of times you're just going to hit rocks, and you're going to spend a lot of time just digging up plain old rocks. But the treasures are worth it. Yeah, septic tanks and plumbers use that. And they are like, I have got a 4-foot tall one, so that's a little tough for me, and I have to go in at an angle because I'm just not tall enough to do that. So yeah, here's when you're excited and you've hit something and you start digging and it's not just a rock. And so this was Eleanor. I took her home, repaired her,
That's so nice.
was taking her back, and then found out that it's another one of those. She has 2 stones.
Well, somebody cared.
Yeah. This one, she's buried next to her parents, and this is her stone today, or yesterday.
21.
Yeah, she was only 21. So they have matching stones there, the 3 of them, but someone has come in and poured concrete over the entire thing, and they poured it around these bases, and all of the stones are leaning, but yeah, it's hard. You have to get someone with a concrete saw to come in and get those, so I can get those leveled back up, because I do want to level them because it is placing stress on that stone to be at that angle. But that's, you can barely read that, and that's why a lot of times you're doing stuff and don't realize they already have a stone. But anyway, she has 2 stones now. This was kind of my mother lode of yucca. When I started on this one on the left in particular, I was just going for digging out the yucca until I hit this stone. And then that turned out to be Hester. Hester Osborne.
Hear the name Hester.
Yeah, so I was able to find everything but the middle spot. I sifted through dirt so long to try to complete that. It was driving me nuts, but I finally did give up on it. So I infilled that.
That's amazing.
And this is another one of the whetstones that really take a nice sharp carving and last a long time, as long as they don't face the delamination issues.
And that's just chipping off. Or just-
Yeah, and it'll be kind of like they've been compressed and it will just flake off. Yeah, I've got one stone that is like nothing but that big. It was somebody at some point, but I don't know who it is. But that particular group of yucca gave up Jeremiah, William, Willie T, and an AW. And thanks to Find a Grave, I was able to find out. And there was also the WRD, which I think is actually WDR for Reynolds. But you know, you're just digging up yucca, and you find all of these things. Tamara Reynolds. I assumed that this little stone was her child. There was one stone here that I could not find any record of this Jeremy Ronalds. And Chris Lindley, the preacher there, he's like, you know, I can't find anything about him. And it's like, boy, I haven't been able to either. But then with Find a Grave, dig a little bit more, and it's actually Jeremiah Reynolds. Somebody just couldn't spell. And it's Tamer's husband, and he was a junior. His father was also Jeremiah Reynolds. But the Osbornes and Reynolds, all these families are related. So that kind of solved the mystery of who on earth Jeremiah Ronalds was, because he's really Jeremiah Reynolds.
That's amazing.
And getting this stone leveled up was just unbelievable. This stone,
The one on the left.
Jeremy's, Jeremiah's, you know, trying to get that one leveled up, I dug and dug and dug, and it's a good 6-foot stone. I mean, I never could really get to the bottom of it.
Weary from all this?
The stone
it was
down that deep?
The Jeremy on the right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the tallest one that I've ever ran across, because I, you know, dug down a couple feet and thought I've got to be getting close, but no, it was crazy. It was
So did
as
you
far.
just keep digging? to try
I just
to
kept
straighten?
digging till I could get it straightened. Yeah,
My goodness.
yeah. So this is kind of a case where you probe where you're likely going to find something. So there was a base there with nothing that you could see. So you dig
Is that your
around.
probe? That purple thing?
That's just my plain
Oh,
old
it's a
shovel.
shovel.
Yeah. So I was able to find Martha there. And that's her put back up.
Isn't that exciting when you find?
It is. I mean, that's why people get obsessed with this. Hannah, I think, was probably actually the first one that I fixed. She was broken there. So, you know, when you're going to repair, you have to get the base leveled up first. And that's when you pack in your gravel tight there, get the base level, get your stuff. And on this one, I did use the epoxy, and then get that done. And here she is, last month.
Is that marble?
Yes, this one is. And marble, I've always thought of marble as like a strong stone, but it's not.
Yeah, it's rough.
And it disintegrates very easily, actually. And that was another one, you know, just broken into 2 pieces. And I will go back through all of these and redo the ones that aren't in bases. I'll be pouring bases at home for these, because I don't want them to be hit
And you won't
with...
use concrete for
I will use concrete to pour the base, not to attach
Okay.
that. Yeah, the concrete will be what I use for the material to make the base, but I won't put it in there with concrete mortar. I'll use
That
the,
name?
that's Abraham Osborne.
Oh.
You know, a lot of them you can tell that what you're getting into. This little guy is John Maris, and there's just a line of infant Marises. This stone just absolutely crumbled. I did the best I could on it, but it literally, and this is what you call sugaring, and it will just crumble in your hand. So I did the best I could, and they do make what's called a stone consolidator that you can order, that you pour on the stone, and it's not glue, but it kind of binds with the stone. You pour it repeatedly and do it as many times as you can. I think this stone is probably too far gone for that to really make much of a difference. So I will be making a new stone for him. I won't do anything with that, but I'll put them together.
My goodness,
Because-
this has cost you a fortune.
No, it's all cheap. My husband came with me. This is a section of the cemetery that there are a couple of rows for African Americans. They weren't allowed to be buried in town, but Newberry allowed them to be buried there. The newer stone is, some of you might be familiar with Oscar Bowman. He was kind of famous. He was the stagecoach driver between New Albany and Paoli.
You know about it, Robert?
Yeah.
So this is his stone, the newer stone. He only died in 1946.
Yeah, I see Burnett too, which is.
Yeah, Burnett. Oh, this stone is like this little sliver you can see there.
Oh, was it underneath?
It had been leaned against his stone, and just, over time they just sink because that ground is so wonderful. So that turned out to be Valletta, a little 2-year-old. And Diana Daniels is descended from the Thomas and Roberts that we have there too. And all the Burnetts, and they were.
Has Diana been out to see this cemetery?
I don't remember. I'm not sure about that. This was a family that I know, and their grandma, you can see her stone has been down in pieces there to the left for several years. So I had them come. They wanted to help, and we got her stone back up. And it was kind of unusual because it doesn't really seem to go together. The various pieces aren't necessarily of the same stone even, and it just looks a little awkward. But this is as it is now. And you can see, like, you'll have because we did have to lift that base up a little bit, you'll see the soil does stain that, and that will fade over time too. The black, you'll get a black mold that is real slimy when it's wet, and that does take a lot longer to die off than the others do. So you'll still see black specks there. This is an easy fix there, just put the top back on. I did use epoxy for that. This is a brother and sister. And, you do get those people who say, if it's not your stone, don't touch it. Well, they were 17 and 19 when they died. They don't have children. You better believe I'm going to fix that stone. Yeah. It's like, I take care of them. This is James Bowman, and you can see how, if you just saw that, you would think there was no base, but once you start digging, there was the base, and he is cemented into that base, so there's no messing with that. But you can,
Completely covered.
yes, you can see the soil line there. That's how deep that was buried. And now you can see that soil stain has faded. it takes patience, and I'm not really a very patient person, but
Well, I think you must be.
I want results now, but I've learned to be patient. This is one that I don't know how long it had been on the ground. This one had just absolutely beautiful carving. This one took me more than a day to fix. That stone, you do have to be very careful. That stone was kind of far away from the base, so I had to lift it and then set it back down and then move my tripod a little bit, just very incrementally. You can't be making...
You could do that by yourself.
Oh, with that, it's no problem. With the chain hoist, yeah, you can literally lift a ton. It's no problem at all. But this one I did take very slowly because it was so far away, and you can't make big moves with that tripod. You have to be very careful. And then you have to...
You put wheels in your tripod.
They do make a wonderful aluminum with the adjustable legs so you can work more easily on a hillside, but that's like $5,000. So I just use, my 2x4 10-foot tripod, and it works.
Are you journaling all this?
Not really, because I didn't intend to start on this. It just became a thing. I did go through, before I started, and took pictures of each stone, so I do have a lot more pictures
So you can leave
at
it
home.
with the church or something?
Well,
Something like that.
I am making a binder that will have each stone and any information I can find on each person.
And leave it with the church.
I had,
Who owns the cemetery?
well, that's a good question. There's no board, it's just an old country church. Nobody there has money to
And a lot of times
do anything.
there's no deed for these.
No,
It doesn't belong to anybody.
no.
The same way with Ligby, that cemetery.
My
Yeah,
grandparents are buried
Yeah.
on somebody's farm. They
Yeah.
deeded a fourth of half of an acre or something.
yeah.
A couple acres. My
And-
grandson's now working on it.
Yeah, it's a murky area a lot of times. But yeah, you disassemble, reassemble after you've leveled the base out. Strap it well. You always keep, I use the pieces of wood as I'm lifting to protect stones. You don't want them hitting together. So yeah, this one did take me more than a day to get back up, but it just has such beautiful carving in that. This is another case where it has been cemented into the base, and the base and the stone are not level with each other. So in that case, I level the stone, and the base is going to be wonky, and there's nothing I can do about that. But it's upright. For this stone, all I could see was that little blob there on the left, and that turned out to be Mary Burnett.
Were the African-American graves separate, or were they all mixed in together?
They're all in two rows there.
And so they had their own section?
Yeah, they had their own section. I barely saw, if you can kind of see under the leaves there, I can tell that there's a stone. So I found little infant Bundy there. I was able to look up, on Find a Grave, and his parents are buried in town, not there with him. But that base was completely buried. So it's getting,
That frost?
yeah, it was a frosty, foggy morning. But you can see by March 24, I've eliminated, I do still have two bigger walnut trees and this giant one that I want gone desperately. It keeps dropping dead limbs, and the walnuts, or I've picked up walnuts until I can't pick up any more walnuts. But for the most part, I've gotten the yuccas at least taken care of. This one was, we had gone to Pennsylvania and I was scheduled for surgery when we got back, and I wanted to get one more done before the surgery, So I got this one, another of the Burnett's put back up.
That's a big
Yeah, that was kind of a tall one, but it went back up very well. This one was another Burnett. I searched and searched for the missing piece there, never could find it. But thanks to the DAR records, they had seen that and that was like what, in the 40s? I'm not exactly sure when they did their surveys, but I think it was in the 40s. So I was able to find out that his name was Charles.
They may not have done them all at the same time.
Yeah. So I've at least got his first name back on there. This is a little kiosk that has been made, and this is where I'll keep the laminated information on everybody. And I may have mentioned I hate walnuts. So this was just this past summer.
The kids come pick them up and sell them. You like?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
I don't know if any kids would be willing to do that. But you get the stones cleaned, and then the squirrels come and eat the nuts on top of the stones and just drive me crazy. And the sun will fade that out again over time, but it just really bothers me. It lost a giant limb there.
And it hit the stones?
Hit the stones and knocked those
How
over.
many times a week do you go into that cemetery looking for stuff like that? Maybe I should say how often.
Like that I can see from our property. And actually this stone, I didn't bother getting the tripod out for that. I did lift that one back myself. I shouldn't have done that, but I did. But so this is kind of the view from like where the roses were earlier. Of course, I mean this is, so now, they are visible from our yard, and you can tell that things are at least going in the right direction there. And then this is looking there from the church. So that, and
That's real recent.
Yeah.
yesterday,
I wish we
Yes.
had over how it looked, that we could just look.
yeah, I actually may have, I had printed off a long time ago from, I think probably the Find a Grave. Okay, yeah, but there are a couple of photos there from someone had taken way back. So that's pretty much where I stand with Newberry Cemetery now.